Bienvenue à Crêpes. Je m'appelle Ivana.
Je m'appelle Nadine.
Je m'appelle Caroline. I'm Valerie.
And I'm your moderator, Simone. So we're here talking about the movie Raw, came out 2017. We just watched it. What did you guys think of it?
It was definitely very different from what I expected. Like, I definitely expected something disturbing from the trailer, but as far as French movies go, it definitely fit what
What's your idea of international film
like,
is?
Like extreme, unique, like it's very eccentric
Something that can only be created outside the Hollywood system.
Definitely.
I think what's special about it is that this film tends to stray away from the normal type of horror sense when things pop out. It's more of a subtle, eerie sense.
Yeah.
When things are just kind of not necessarily scary, but definitely kind of evoke a certain emotion of like disgust and goriness.
Like uncomfortable all the
Yeah.
time.
That was definitely my emotion throughout the majority of the film.
Yeah. And uncertain too, because like you don't think something's gonna pop up
Yeah,
at you, but
like,
you think something even weirder is gonna happen.
Yeah.
So you're like,
it just takes a left turn, and you're like, oh.
For
okay.
sure. So let's quickly talk plot. So the movie is about Justine, and she's a veterinarian who is also
a student.
Vegetarian.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's a student who is a vegetarian.
Yeah.
And she is forced to eat rabbit's brain as part of rabbit's kidney as part of
hazing.
A hazing.
Yeah. And it's the hazing from the school.
And it's raw. It's a raw rabbit kidney, and after that she becomes a cannibal.
Yeah.
And
it's not like immediate though. It's incremental.
It's a slow process. She starts eating raw meat.
Yeah. It's like a
but it definitely has but it definitely has like the moment where that happened.
You can definitely tell like the switch.
Yeah, the switch.
Yeah. It went from the raw kidney to a hamburger that she stole to
a cooked hamburger.
Yeah, cooked hamburger. Then
her sister's finger.
No. It was the
like,
salmon.
Oh, that's right.
It was salmon, and she was eating salmon.
And then
So, before we ruin any more of it, here's a clip.
T'es déjà debout?
C'est l'heure du petit-déj.
T'es parti pour nous faire un méchoui? Tu manges quoi?
Des céréales?
Elles sont là, les céréales.
Oui, bah ça va, je prends du lait.
I hope you enjoyed that clip. We didn't watch it. We're just going to continue. So we're going to discuss some of the parts of this film, right? So before we were saying she gets into eating raw meat and then moves into eating people. We can maybe think about that through like a symbolism perspective, right? A symbolic perspective, some would say that it's like a sexual awakening. Mm-hmm. What would you think about that?
So there's a lot of ways to like look at how it was portrayed in the movie specifically, but so just looking at it from a direct perspective, it's often seen that like disturbed individuals, I don't know about these particular people, but disturbed individuals in the sense that they're psychopathic. They express their sexual urges through cannibalism. There's been this cannibal in Japan, and he was like a serial killer, and he ate his victims.
Yeah.
So basically, it's not the first time death has ever been associated. Definitely not the first time that death has ever been associated with sexual urges, and it's a very French thing, actually. I don't remember exactly what it is, but for a long time, the French have associated death with sexuality.
Well,
I think it's also interesting when she was sexual that she wasn't just kind of like, in the beginning she showed herself and was just very innocent, and the doctor that was checking her up was like, oh, do you use protection? She was like, I don't do that, like I've never done that. So it shows that she's very innocent, and I think as time went on, she went through her veterinary school, she started realizing that she was more sexual and had more urges than she realized, and they were kind of suppressed. That only came out when she ate those meats.
Yeah.
So they were definitely together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely an association of that about the fact that it's raw meat and like sexual like
Yeah.
like
Like
it's like
nudity.
raw like
Nudity.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
raw.
like
This,
yeah.
the
more
human
intimate.
flesh, exactly. It's
Human flesh.
definitely.
Yeah,
Well-
like actual flesh and also like
On that-
sexual flesh.
topic, when she is getting, when she first eats a person, it's her sister's finger,
Right.
and it's after her sister was trying to give her a Brazilian.
Yeah.
It's that first coming into sexuality of someone trying to be like, well, this is how you groom your privates.
Right.
Yeah.
And even then, there was like a pink lighting in it, and there was multiple different lightings, which showed really intense cinematography during the scene when they would show a certain mood lighting. So it would be pink, or it would be red, or it would be blue, which would symbolize either intimacy or sexuality, or even that craving towards that red meat.
Right.
So let's talk more about the lighting choices. Now, I think it's pretty red, but it's also a lot of blue coloring. What do you think the difference between the scenes that were red colored and blue colored were?
So as Nadine just said, a lot of it was, I feel like it was a parallel with the red of the meat as well as red of like passion.
Like sexuality.
In that it's symbolic of sexuality and loss of innocence. So basically, whenever one thinks of impurity, it's like a stain on anything white, you know. And what better to stain something than red?
What about-
And that's also like the coat jackets, the doctors.
Yeah,
So when they
yeah.
were all taking the picture, red paint fell on them like blood.
Right.
And that was kind of like ruining their innocence as a part of the hazing process too.
What about like the other scenes, the scenes that weren't red? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's I feel like the bluish, like coldish color
Yeah.
is meant to resemble like disconnection or like from everyone that's not her. So like I can more specifically pin that on the scene where the sister's leaving the hospital and she just looks at her with disgust and like, I can't believe you did this, and everything was blue.
I would say it's also like the idea. This movie plays a lot on fears of like medical, like horror. You know, it's a lot of like veterinary things in jars and stuff, and you know, people put hands in places hands shouldn't go inside animals. So maybe it's like that idea of fluorescent medical lighting that makes it so uncomfortable.
Like sterilization.
Sterile.
Yeah, because
So
when
it's like two combating themes of sexuality and sterility.
Exactly. So her life now, being in med school, is 50% sterility of the classroom, and then 50% her going out to these parties and having sex and, you know, being a cannibal.
Yeah.
So on the like subject of lighting, let's continue on to the subject of the camera angles.
Right.
We saw a lot of butt shots, extreme close-ups, real male gaze at certain points towards the character of Adrian, right?
Mm-hmm.
The gay male roommate. It's a lot of, some would say, sexualization through like the lens of the camera.
I think a lot of that was also with like the camera butt scenes. They would have her sleeping. It wouldn't even be intimate. It would just be her tossing and turning in bed, having
Or
night terrors.
scratching.
Yeah, scratching
Yeah,
her
the
body. So I think it was more kind of you get closer and closer to her and her inner core in the middle of the movie, as she does the same to others.
It's like a
sleeping with them.
vulnerable shot too.
Definitely.
Like that's like a bad angle usually, and
Yeah.
it makes her kind of look like
It's,
she's
it's
developing.
showing how vulnerable she is while she is developing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember they used that camera angle when she was getting her Brazilian as well.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true. That's where it
What do you
starts.
think about that coming from a female director, Julia Ducournau? What do you think about her being a female director and deciding to put these intense close-ups in certain areas?
I think the French have always definitely tried to. It's not even the fact that they try. It's just the French are very open in sexuality
and they capitalize on that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Especially with the relationship between the sister and her.
Mm-hmm.
So with this female director, she's able to make a really powerful message. Like, women are just as sexual as men, which is, I feel, not just one of the necessarily the messages from this film, but it certainly is. It fixates on a young girl's sexual awakening and how deeply it affects her.
Yeah,
I think her as a woman shows that she can capitalize on those areas of vulnerability to a woman. So I mean, those camera angles, she knew that that's not the most comfortable camera shot, especially when you're tossing and turning and scratching and you're sweating. Like, she knew that, and that's why she wanted to put that scene in there.
And blood is also like symbolic to, like, because as like if you get your period, that's like known as a sign of sexual awakening and things like that.
Lots of innocence in some eyes of some cultures.
Yeah, it's exactly.
A coming of age.
It's almost yeah, exactly. It's like a rite of path for it.
And which was kind of indicated that this sort of happening, or this event, when she was transitioning from the vegan or vegetarian life to the cannibalistic life, when her sister was like what did she say? Her sister said something like, "Now you can join me." Not necessarily that, but it was very clear that her sister was waiting for her to be like her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We'll play that scene now. You too. Be careful.
So after having played that scene, I think it's pretty important that we
Wait,
talk about.
Is your roommate coming? No.
So after having played that scene, I think it's important that we talk about the relationship between the sister and.
Yeah.
And speaking of like coming of age, I think that's the reason why her sister didn't eat the kidney for her, because maybe in her eyes she thought, you have to go through this too.
And she even said that. She said, "I did it a year ago. I don't have to do it now."
Yeah. Exactly. So basically, like, there was a point at which her sister had the ability to take the rabbit brain for her, because the guy was like, "Well, you can eat both or whatever. You can eat one for her and one for you," and then,
She ate it though. She
ate one,
again.
and then she forced her to eat one. Like, she did it with her, but at the same time, she could have just done it for her.
I think she wanted to make her go through that process with her. So I mean, in the end of the movie, when they start fighting each other, they're attacking each other because they're mad at each other, and then they both bite each other and start not enjoying it, but they kind of come to terms with one another that is who they are and that is who they become.
Well, that's when they walk off together.
Exactly, when everyone
It's-
else leaves them, like they kind of isolate them.
It's a
She showers
very
her sister up.
Yeah.
It's like it's a definitely very intimate scene.
yeah, and also it's a very toxic relationship, because she could have protected her sister and like kept her innocence, but instead she didn't do that.
No.
Because
Then
it's
she let her
in their
forget.
lineage though, like because at the very end of the movie,
Well, we're not going to reveal the end of the movie. I'm
okay.
going to tell you, though, it's a real shocker twister. So let's continue back to the sisters' relationship. Why do you think it is that the sister, like, has this dog? Do you think she's maybe, like, supposed to be, like, seen as, like, a cool character? Or, like, her haircut is, like, edgy?
Honestly, her sister is so sexy.
Her sister is very sexy.
So that's first and foremost.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it was very purposeful that the main character was not as beautiful as the other surrounding supporting characters, because her sister was she was beautiful.
Well,
and then the man,
she
I think
made
she was
the
less
feel.
comfortable.
Too. Like she's like alluring because you're kind of like, I want to know why she's so different. What?
yeah, in a developing kind of way, not in a very apparent way, but in a disturbed kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, definitely in the beginning of the movie, you get this view of her sister, like, oh, she's cool, she's edgy, like, and at that point, we don't know much about her. And then as the story goes on, we are revealed her character.
And we
more.
even see the sister, the main character, actually go and help her sister in the end, as she just kind of becomes a zombie and kills the girl's roommate.
Right.
She has to kind of sit there and wash her off in the shower and wash off the blood and kind of like trying to wash off her sins and what she did wrong, I think. And I think they both know that is who they are at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
the
I think it's-
roommate. Speaking of the roommate, like, I just thought he was an important character. We should talk about.
Well, I would just quickly say it's pretty obvious that they do love each other,
Mhm.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
and through it all, they did love each other. You know, all that nonsense. Anyways, back to the gay roommate. What do you want to talk about with the gay roommate? Are we going to talk about how he's not actually a gay roommate since he only basically fucks girls in this movie?
Well, I think gay, like, it's on a spectrum.
Has sex
so
with
it's not,
women?
I think that he is definitely gay because he even stood up and he was like, I don't do this, I'm gay. And I don't think he realized that you can still have sex with women and men. But I think that, like, contrast with how he felt and how he's conflicted, especially when he kind of, like, enjoyed when he saw her biting another man. Like, he was into that.
Was he into it?
I think he was.
I think he's
curious.
confused. Like,
yeah.
it's not necessarily a sexual awakening of Justina. It's like, I think everyone is honestly still figuring themselves out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Identity-wise.
yeah, and I think that's part of his character. He's confused. Is he gay, but he still fucks girls, and like.
Well, he's bi.
Well-
He's pretty bi, but
Yeah.
he doesn't
Well,
know
according to
it.
the movie, he says that
Yeah,
he's gay.
he's
so
gay,
that's
but he keeps acting out these bi activities. So maybe he just hasn't come out to himself as bi, which is like an interesting question of like, why is he doing that?
So, yeah, and at the same time, maybe he's attracted to her because he's intrigued by like this part
I think
of her.
that's where it
You
Like
think-
he's confused. Like,
So
do I like this? And I
he's
don't know.
not bi. He's into guys, and he's into people who eat people.
Well, I wouldn't say that. But
I would just think that he, like, according to the movie, without speculation, he said that he's gay, and he was kind of angered with himself that he had sex with a woman,
And blamed
then
her, too.
and blamed her definitely. But
Yeah.
then not just that, but then he was kind of like still interested, so he still had that tendency and that interest. Do we know if it's because she's a woman, or do we know because the blood thing? We're not really sure. The movie doesn't really make that sure. I think that's something that the movie does on purpose to make ambiguous, to make conversations about something like that. So I think his character was very ambiguous in what he liked and what he didn't like.
Yeah.
I think also the fact, or the way he struggles with his sexuality is also a highlight on how the movie is very fixated on how labels are very toxic in society. So not necessarily with just being bisexual or gay or anything, it's also with her being a vegetarian.
Yeah.
So when she first takes that bite of the rabbit, like, she's disgusted with herself. She can't even believe that she bit into raw rabbit brain, and she almost vomits it up.
Yeah.
The first
I
time.
would ask, well, you're saying that in this movie it's presented as restrictive, right? Do we think that those labels, the director sees labels as both restrictive but protective? Because when Adrian is not having sex with women, he's having sex with men, and that seems to have been doing him fine. But when he has sex with this woman, Justine, the main character, you know, everything crumbles for him.
Well, the label also with vegetarian, it's interesting how she, like, multiple times has said that she's vegetarian, but she's never referred to herself as cannibal at all after she realized it, or even, like, that word never comes up. Even though
Yeah, and they don't even discuss about it in
Yeah.
general. Like, they
Yeah.
never discuss.
They just honestly, once
Yeah,
it
and-
occurs, it's basically treated as like basically normal.
And she
Yeah.
doesn't say she's vegetarian anymore,
Yeah,
though.
and the
Yeah.
only
So the
person,
absence of that
Yeah.
label.
the only person who addresses it is her dad. Like, her mom doesn't even talk to them about it, who has probably, like, relates to them, right?
What I would say is interesting how all the labels we're presented with are the ones that are restrictive. Nobody ends at a label. Everyone starts at a label that they abandon.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because the label of bisexuality isn't
Never brought up.
Yeah, exactly.
Cannibalism is never brought up. Carnivore is never said. She just is no longer a vegetarian.
Si les fleurs.
Hi, welcome back. So we just had a little malfunction there, but we're gonna quickly give our review, right? So let's go around the table and rate it out of 5 severed fingers. Valerie,
I'll give it 4.5.
4.5 severed fingers.
Yes.
I give it 3.5 severed fingers.
3.5 severed fingers.
I give it 2.
2
Like
severed
a straight
fingers.
two.
Just a straight 2.
Just straight 2. Two severed.
A solid
That's pretty
2.
serious.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I
serious.
know.
Yeah.
I give it a solid 3.
Okay, I give it a solid 5 severed
It's
fingers.
a lot of severed fingers.
It's a lot of severed fingers. We got a lot of
hand.
Yes.
Honestly.
It is a whole
Please
hand.
stop.
But we hope to see you next week, where we'll be discussing Amelie. This has been Crêpes et Crêpes.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Si les fleurs qui bordent les chemins se fanaient toutes demain, je garderai au cœur celle qui s'allumait dans tes yeux lorsque je t'aimais tant au pays merveilleux de nos 16 printemps. Petite fleur d'amour, tu fleuriras toujours pour moi. Quand la vie par moments me trahit, tu restes mon bonheur, petite fleur. Sur les vingt doigts, je m'arrête un moment pour respirer ce parfum que j'ai tant aimé. Dans mon cœur, tout fleurira toujours au grand jardin d'amour, petite fleur. Dans mon cœur, tu fleuriras toujours